Good afternoon, everyone. Hey, we want to thank you for joining us for our June. Can you believe it? It's been almost 1 year since the Lansing People's Assembly was instituted. And so we're looking forward to next month celebrating 1 year anniversary of the Lansing People's Assembly. We want to welcome those that are joining us online, and we're going to be live streaming to the various platforms. However, if you want to join the breakout sessions and the discussions, please click the link in the comment or chat section so that you can get into the Zoom meeting and be a part of the discussions with others that are joining us. I also want to welcome those that are joining us live on Zoom. And so thank you again for being with us. While we are admitting people into the assembly today, we would ask that even if you're online, if you could fill into the chat, feature your name, your pronouns, and how has the Lansing People's Assembly impacted you? If this is your very first time, you're in for a treat. Thank you for joining us again, and fill in that comment section. And while you're filling out the comment section online as well as in the Zoom meeting, I'm going to play our new, we're going to get some discussion around it. So let's just play it and get some discussions after this.
Try to take it from me. Yeah. Big time. Big time. Big time. Big time. Number 9. Diamonds in my teeth, I got a lot of shine. Running up the numbers, that's a lot of grind. Trying to take it from me, must be out your mind.
Yeah, so we know it's a pivotal year. It is election. We have elections going on across this state, but right here in Lansing, we've got a very important election for mayor of Lansing. So again, we want to lift up how important it is to get out the vote, make sure that we show up at the polls, we vote, and make sure everyone is registered to vote as well. So if you're just joining us, you came in, you are filling out the comment section and your name and pronoun, as well as how has the Lansing People's Assembly impacted you. Today, I want to acknowledge all of our sponsors, the Village Lansing, TRHT of Metro Lansing, Black Lives Matter Allyship, BLM Lansing, One Love Global, and our Liberation PAC, Building Black Power for Justice and Peace. And if you are out there and you represent an organization and you want to be a sponsor of the Lansing People's Assembly, please email us at the email address that's in the comment section. So, hey, I'd like to ask Sarah. Sarah Geller she's always with us on the tech side, and she's scrambling because I'm calling her out. But I'd like for her to just kind of greet you today, say hello, and we'll go from there. But I think they can hear you. Sarah, just holler at them. It's family.
Hey, everybody. Hi. Sorry about that.
Angela's here too. We're all
Hey,
here.
Sarah, Angela, family.
Hello.
We're all here in the same room. So, hey, we are having a party here. You got to join us after the assembly, and we'll give you the address to the party after this is over. Now, listen, we got a lot of great things we got to cover on today. And so we're going to jump right in so that you can have as much time as possible in your breakout sessions. So again, we want to welcome you. The Lansing People's Assembly was initiated last year in July, and we've had a number of topics that we have as a community discussed. We're at a brand new place now. And so today we're going to be looking at and continuing our discussion on developing a Lansing People's Budget Part 2. We're going to actually ask you to put some numbers to the priorities that we've established. We know that the current budget is already settled. The council has approved it. And so what we are working on, this is a process on a budget that represents equity and justice. And we're going to present that as a people's assembly. So this is a process. And so today we're going to be, again, building upon what we started on last month. We will review the People's Assembly process and the beloved community and what that is, and review our priorities. And so, again, as I'm going through the slides, please take some notes if this is your first time or second time, so that when you get into your breakout sessions, you've got some context and some things that you might want to jot down. And so, again, we're going to be looking at the city's budget. And the question that we want to ask is, what does a budget look like that embraces equity and justice? And so you'll have 1 hour in your breakout sessions. And then we'll come back in here from our various groups. When we talk about the Lansing People's Assembly, or a People's Assembly, period, the assembly is multiracial, multi-generational, multi-ideological, and multi-gender. The assembly brings all the voices together in a circular fashion and engages the thinking, experiences, and visions of all the participants in order to synthesize and collectively agree on action steps. And so this is a very important process. It's open to the mayor, it's open to city council persons, it's open for all of Lansing citizens. At the very heart of the assembly is the desire and the goal to dismantle patriarchy, racism, poverty, capitalism, oppression, exploitation, and violence, while replacing those systems with movement, governance, and liberated institutions. And so the assembly creates an open space for people to enter social movement and become active participants and leaders. So again, we want to welcome you to the Lansing People's Assembly. Now, everyone has a role. Everyone has a role. So when we come, we see this reoccurring theme of, we review again what are the problems we are facing, what are the solutions, and then what are we going to do about it. Everyone has a role. So I want to ask you, what role are you willing to play? Because we are continuing to build this assembly. So you may want to be trained as a facilitator. Put that in the comment section. Email us with the email address that's in the comment section. You may want to be a part of the cultural work, right? And you may want to be a part of the research and documentation, the organizing group, space support, and then participation. So what role would you like to play? We want to hear from you on today. So as you can see from the slide, everyone can put their best effort for it and lift up the collective voices of the citizens of Lansing. And so when we talk about when we dream, we're talking about at the end, how will we know that we've done and we've finished our mission and our vision is the beloved community, right? And so the beloved community is a community where conditions that create crime and violence are no longer present. Outcomes can no longer be predicted by race. Racial hierarchy is no longer the norm. Everyone feels welcome and everyone is safe. Not just feel safe, but everyone is safe. So that's how we know. This is what we're working to build together, is the beloved community. Now, when we talk about our priorities, once again, you can see it's community safety. Everything flows into community safety, and how we arrive at community safety is what we've been building together. Number one, defund the police and invest the money in community organizations, right? Not just divest, we have to invest. And so it's very important in today's assembly. We're going to play not necessarily it won't be a contest, but you will have the opportunity to create your own budget and then present it at the end. And so we want to see what it will look like. The second priority: ensure livable wages for all to meet basic needs without worry. We did a text campaign, and we've been involved in an ongoing text campaign with citizens across the state, even Lansing, and the number one need in the community was insurable livable wages in terms of post-COVID. And that was a major concern. Everything that you see as a priority on this screen came back from the survey and the text responses that people are really struggling. And so they need help. And obviously, the last priority that we all have arrived to is divert funds to community programs and mental health, help prevent it and invest in preventative measures. But again, this is about community safety. This is about all people not just feeling, but being safe and being able to live the life that they should be able to live. On our grounding today, which is very important that we kind of center, we always talk about where's the lens pointed, who's in that lens. And we can't do this work if we don't always ground ourselves and make sure that those who are the most impacted are at the center of that lens. And so we're going to ground ourselves with the issue of violence that is happening in our community. And we're not proud to report this. Last year, 2020 was, we experienced the most murders in quite some time. I think it was 22. And so here we are in June of 2021, and we have reached 15 youth homicides, and it's only June. The Lansing School District and the City of Lansing, various leaders are calling an anti-gun violence rally on June the 29th. But I think we should just sit with this and remember the families. We want to say to all the families that we're not just offering you our thoughts and prayers, but we want to move beyond thoughts and prayers and move into direct action. And so we want to remember the families. And the other thing I would also like to lift up is that tragically, we've lost 15 youth year to date, but we've also had a number of youth who have been shot and injured. So the collateral damage is wide. It is impacting our youth, it's impacting our entire city. And I want us to be aware that oftentimes when these are reported, these incidents are reported in the media, sometimes it is reported in a way that it makes it sounds like these youth had it coming to them. And we want to dismantle that narrative. That is not true. And we know, any parent knows that we have children. It takes a village to raise children. It takes a community. And that's why we are here. If you want to know why we gather once a month on a Saturday, it's because lives are at the end of these decisions. We've been crying out to our administration. We've been crying out to city council. We've been crying out to prosecutors. We've been crying out for over a year. And so I'd like to just sit, and what I'd like to do for those that are joining us online, if you know any of those who've been impacted, if you could give them a shout out in the comment section and just let our community know that we see you, we feel you, and we're not going to let you fall. But we do remember the families in our grounding. So I'm going to take a hard pause, 30 seconds, and you can put some comments in the comment section. So again, thank you for grounding ourselves and in the reality of our situations. And I could say a whole lot more, but I would like to, at some point, we want to hear from you all. If someone has something that you would like to add, and with deep compassion and reflection, please, by all means, take yourself off mute and share with the assembly.
Commissioner Mary Alice Adams.
Thank you, Commissioner. Welcome.
Welcome and hello, everyone. I'm not showing my face because I'm not the greatest right now. I'm working on a project and I'm almost finished putting this cabinet together.
That's fine.
And I've been edited ever since I got up. But I've been paying attention to the news as I work here, and I didn't chauvin's mother had said. And when she said something to the effect of, a sentence of her son was like sentencing herself, it hit home for me because I've just endured over the last couple of years my son an encounter with the police, and I've had time not being an attorney to read over his paperwork and actually speaking to the arresting officer myself, the lies that are so real that can bound us up as Black people and so hard to get out of the system. And I can't believe the time that they gave him is pretty much up there with this police officer that has actually murdered this man before the whole universe. And I found myself in angry space just thinking about it. And then reading the pre-examination of a young man from Kalamazoo that called me and wanted to know of my son's past and his upbringing. And it was totally out of order, the things that he wrote in telling my story that made me realize how important it is for us to tell our own.
Yes.
I just found myself in an angry space. I'm getting better because we're going to continue to fight for his freedom, though he must pay for the wrong in the part that he played in. But it surely did not ding the time that they put on him. I just wanted to share that and ask you all to just keep me lifted up as I continue to lift you all up. Thank you.
Commissioner Adams, we appreciate you sharing, and it continues to bring us into deep compassion and reflection, but as well as we must act, and we're having some of the same issues here in Lansing around these same, these homicides as it relates to the investigation, as it relates to the reporting, as it relates to all of the things that you talked about. And we met as a team and we said we needed to ground ourselves. And we need to think about, again, the importance of this work. So thank you for sharing. Is there anyone else? Maybe you're online as we're live streaming and you're on Facebook and you'd like to type something in. We've got folks that are managing the chat on that. Anyone else that's in the assembly today have something you'd like to share? So I don't know if you've planned to be a part of the rally on June 29th, but you can go to the website, the school district's website, and I believe it'll be at Everett High School. And but we definitely, as an assembly, we want to show up and be present. Interestingly, we've been meeting for over a year, setting the priorities for the community. This is, government for and by the people. Our mayor announced that he is forming a gun violence task force to develop recommendations for action. However, we've never been consulted as it relates to what are those recommendations. We have given recommendations for over a year. And so I would ask everyone to go and look at who was asked to sit on that task force. And that's what we're going to talk about today, why we need to move this conversation forward. So where are we headed? Again, for the spring, we're going to continue to develop a beloved community people's budget, which is super important. Secure Breathe Act community co-sponsors. And we'll talk to you about how to do that as you come back from your breakout sessions. Continue to educate the community in wake of the election. And we want you to know we will have an assembly at City Hall. So I want to announce this for next month's People's Assembly. We will be hybrid. And so this will be our first time that we'll be able to be together and be able to put sticky notes on the wall and really, really grow our People's Assembly. So please, let's gear up for it for next month. But we will present and have an assembly right at City Hall, right? We can't be a People's Assembly and meet in a corner. We're going to continue to create outreach materials to engage more community in the process. So, and then as we move forward, obviously, we're going to get out the vote as we head into election and influence the fall budget cycle. I wanted to give an example because oftentimes there are people's assemblies that are happening all across the country. And I wanted to bring in Los Angeles as an example. And so when we look at the LA budget, the mayor has allocated 45.9% of the unrestricted revenues to the LAPD. So LAPD in their particular budget is getting $3.1 billion of the city budget. And so when they began to meet in their assembly, they said, hey, we've got priorities as well. And this budget does not reflect the people's assembly, the voice of the people, the needs of the folks in that particular city. So we wanted to show you exactly, and I want you to think about this. Look at the numbers here in this particular budget. And then when we put up our budget, I want you to see how close they are, because these are moral statements, right? These are statements of priorities. When they met and said, hey, let's reallocate funds and come up with our own people's budget, look at what their budget looked like. They said, we want to put 45, almost 46% to universal aid and crisis management, 27%, almost 28% to built environment. And that's environmental justice, economic, education. All of those things are in that built environment, everything that builds it up. And then reimagining community safety, and 1.6% to law enforcement and policing. So as you can see, the community's budget priorities are just totally opposite of what the elected officials allocated. And so that's the exercise that we are going to engage each of you in on today. And we want you all to get in your breakout groups and begin to lay out a slide that will look like this. Now, when we look at what our city looks like, right, for 2020 and 2021 out of $229 million, if you add up police and fire, right, you've got 37% of the budget. And you can go around and begin to look at, how the money is being allocated. But then if you look over to the right and look at the 2021, 2022, you can see, as a result of the People's Assembly and all of the pressure that we've been like crying out to the administration, it looks as if they tried to change the way it appears. But look at the difference. If you look at fire, it's 13%. If you look at police, it's 17%. And then retirement and fixed benefits, that's all in the same bucket. So you take 31%, 17, and 13%. That is what has been allocated before we even get out to the community. Is this what we asked for? So I want us to really think about this. I mean, this is it's amazing to me on so many different levels, and you all can, continue to hash this and flesh this out in your groups. I pulled this from some of the news articles. As a result, again, our administration, the recent actions, Mayor Short announces plan to hire new police officers to combat gun violence. And that's not what we've laid out in front of him. So, when you read the article, Mayor Andy Short today announced a proposal to immediately hire 5 new Lansing police officers. The officers would be paid for primarily through a federal grant the city was awarded through the Community Oriented Police Services, the COPS hiring program. Hiring 5 new police officers will help LPD address gun violence throughout the city by increasing nighttime enforcement, neighborhood patrols. They're not patrolling the suburbs, and disbanding illegal gatherings. How many illegal gatherings have we had, Angela? That was a result. Think about this. And in the past that have led to violence. So again, think about how when we say this is what will work, the research, the data, they do something totally different. And when we pull it back even further, the Lansing Police Department was awarded a total of $625,000 to pay for a portion of salaries and benefits for the 5 entry-level officers. The COPS grant entirely funds fiscal year 2021 and 22 costs and will partially cover future costs. The Lansing Police Department total local match over the course of the 4 years is estimated at almost $1 million. So we can find money for these kinds of things, but we seemingly cannot find any money for community safety and investing in community and economic development. Is this what we asked for? When we look at the studies and the data, it shows that police presence often turns a nonviolent situation into a violent one. We must remove police from these areas and fund community workers and professionals who can provide the needed support. And as you can see, parties and noise complaints, bringing police into those does not help. Domestic and family conflict, neighborhood gatherings, substance use situations, public transportation, homelessness, wellness checks, street vending, all these kinds of things. So um, we want to just kind of ground ourselves and give you some context as you head off into your discussions. So what we're building, obviously, as we said, as we move forward, we're building a Lansing Breathe Act because nothing moves unless there's policy. That's long-term impact and transformation. And many of you have signed up for various aspects of the Breathe Act. And so section 1 is divest. Section 2 is new safety infrastructure, building that. And section 3 is creating opportunities. And then the fourth section is about accountability. Like, how do we hold these systems accountable? So this new Lansing Breathe Act, this is what we are fleshing out. We're adding the flesh to it, obviously. And many of you have signed up. If you are listening to me online or in the Zoom and you have not been able to sign up, nor this is your first time hearing about the Breathe Act, I'm going to invite you to click the link in the comment section that will take you to the website to give you more information about the Breathe Act. And then we want you to be able to sign up for one of these groups. So on today, we want you to take the city's budget, and you'll have a working document that you'll be able to access. Where should our money go? So when we look, I want you to take and look at how we've increased, the mayor increased the police budget. And then if you were responsible for reallocating and defunding the police, where would you put that money and how much? What would our new pie chart look like? Right? So you're going to end up having two different assignments today. The first one would be an overall reallocation of the funds. Let me go back and put this up. So what would your pie chart look like in your groups? Overall, right? What would your new pie chart look like given these categories? And then if you took and defunded the police, where would you invest the money that you freed up in your exercise? So would it be in affordable housing, job training, education, mental health, counseling, substance abuse, and et cetera, on and on and on. You can also access your area of the Breathe Act and become as specific as possible. Like, this is not easy work, but this is the reason why we do it together. Our community agreements: respect, effect, inclusion, grace, and sanctuary. We always read this. So we want to lean out and lean in, right? When you're speaking, you're leaning in. And then when others, we give space for others to speak and non-judgmental. And when we're leaned out, we are listening with big ears so that we can understand and support. So if you're willing, please, we need someone in each group to take notes and someone to kind of guide the discussions as well. So when you get in your groups, we already have some facilitators that are present with us already. So again, we want to thank those facilitators and those note takers. Here are your two questions. How would you reallocate the $229 million budget overall percentages? And which categories would you use and at what percentage level? And these questions will be put into the comment section for you as you go into your breakout sessions. And then last, with what's left over, what would you reallocate to your area of the Lansing Breathe Act to implement it? Again, think about this slide